and welcome to another episode of the Herd Main Show. I'm your herd leader, John Wayne.
And I'm the boop.
Yes, you are the boop, my boop, the best boop.
Thank you.
Um,
I've been told.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't exist. We found that out on April 1st, but I'm still here, ready to party.
yeah, I don't participate in the shenanigans because I think April 1st is not a holiday. I think it's
Darling.
just a day to freely be a Richard to people.
All I do is shenanigans, honestly. I think that's my brand now,
Yeah,
so
some people just don't know how to play shenanigans anyway.
that's true.
Um, but no, none of that. No shenanigans here. This is a real podcast by real people about real Star Wars, the real good Star Wars too. And as usual, we like to be
Stupid.
as friendly and as um, available, for advice. We are very advising people, and we
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of things, and so we like to use that knowledge to help people, and that is why we have this series where we help make sure you have the best Star Wars vacation possible.
Okay, you got there. I was wondering. Yeah, think of us as your intergalactic travel agents. They're
Yeah.
friends and neighbors.
So you already know what we're talking about because we have to title episodes. There's no ambiguity in things anymore. So, but you don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
But that's the exciting thing. You don't know what we're going to talk about.
No, I don't,
The
because
boop.
you hid the list from me like some kind of raccoon.
Well, we used to do a back and forth. We picked a
Mm-hmm.
few and everything like that. It was very listy. And then we changed it up where there was a time I wanted to try something new and make it more fun.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
usually have fun, so I was like, let me have this moment.
You having fun? What
Yeah.
is this?
And so we changed it up to where it's still listy a little bit. We go for education. We want you to know about the place you're going and why it's so dangerous. Essentially, this is a guide to why this should not be a vacation location for you and your family and friends. Um, and in the mix of it, to make it more interesting, because just facts and education can get very boring.
Mm-hmm.
So I have trivia interspersed,
Ah, I like
and so,
trivia.
yeah, it's a bit of a game. You have to pay attention so much to participate and everything, and feel free to play at home, of course. And
Oh boy.
you might think you know Hoth, but you might learn something.
Oh, we're
So
talking about Hoth.
yes, Hoth. Yeah, they
Yes,
have a title you don't at this. Well, you knew what we were
I
talking
knew.
about. Why do I fall for those shenanigans?
They're very listen. The shenanigans you don't find them. They pull you
They
in.
find you,
They
yeah.
you
Um,
and you're stuck forever.
So Hoth, it may not be everyone's first pick for vacation, but since we've spoiled so many planets by now, you might be getting desperate with your vacation locations.
Next, Earth.
Right. So, but we have to stop you now if Hoth is your locale. There's not too much known about the planet. I had to really dig for 10 things, but I found them. Lo and behold, I found them. That means you know what? You should not go. If I can find at least 10 things that can kill you, 9 things, you could probably swing it. 5, that's safe. That's a walk in the park. 1, that's just life. But 10, no. That is just evil. And we want to keep you away from this icy hell as much as possible. And
hmm
so I have 10 things prepared that will teach you about this wonderful but deadly planet.
Yes.
Yes.
How we get into Hoth?
How are we getting to Hoth?
How
We're
we get into
flying.
Hoth? We're flying. Okay.
Yes, just I mean, obviously this is all fictitious, and we all do this to medicate ourselves because we have other unhealthy habits and the world's just very stressful. But let's have fun. None of it's real, but it
Ooh.
comforts me. So there you go. That got too spicy, but anyway.
It's like
All right.
nacho cheese. It's
Yes.
not real. You know it's not real, but it's still tasty.
Right. It's not real cheese. It's something. So going ahead up top. I'll thank them throughout for any specific points that they brought some life to. But going ahead and thanking our patrons and shouting out that we have a new patron.
Yes, we do.
We'll of course thank them at the end of the show as we do with everyone. But welcome aboard, Nicholas, and Nicholas and all of our other patrons helped give some input. And that's what we love about our patrons is you never know what they're including, and I try to make sure we highlight that more because I feel like some of their contributions don't get kind of read into because we're often going back and forth
hmm
on things that eventually inform or end up in the episode or something like that. So going ahead and mentioning that they had some hands in this. So if you want to have hands in Nerd Herder, we want your hands. but you got to pay to do that. We aren't free, but we do only start at $1 a month.
Only
So
hands.
yeah, only hands, no feet.
Only hands.
Um, we might add in a $10 tier eventually that includes feet, but you
$20.
you can be in the herd
Listen.
with your nerd
I get
if you pay for
pedicures.
it.
$20 minimum. All right.
Oh man. So, are we ready?
I think I'm as ready as I will be. I
All
got
right.
my tea.
Yes.
I'm ready to
I've,
party.
I've got I've got my cat dad mug
I've
because
got
I am a cat and a dad.
I've got my dog dad mug because they didn't have moms. But you know what? Who cares?
Sip for courage. And so we're starting off number 10. So I thought I'd follow a little bit of a flow with most of what we know canon wise about Hoth all stems from episode 5. Lo and behold, there's not a lot of Hoth action going on there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you get into Legends, there's a little bit more, but some of it's a little ridiculous. And we just like to talk about what is currently going on mostly. We do highlight reels every now and then of Legends, but we keep it to where if you're watching the movies now and if you're watching the new shows and if you're reading the new comics, you can dive into any one of our episodes and we're talking about what you're digesting. Doesn't mean
Yes.
we prefer one over the other, but sticking to canon, not a lot about Hoth. So I figured we'll just follow along. If everything we know about it is from Empire Strikes Back, we'll start from where we start and end where we end with Hoth. And so that means number 10 is a surprise. It's meteors.
Oh, that is a
Yeah,
surprise.
lo and behold, there's an extensive asteroid field in the Hoth system that both contributes to why there aren't many visitors and why an evening stroll in the icy plains might turn deadly. Meteors actually fall so regularly that an Imperial probe droid was able to slip it in and spy on the rebels and report back to the base. If you actually watch the movie, they call it back. It's like, it's just probably a meteor. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, Luke has to check it out, which then starts off all of our other chain of deaths. So I mean, it's really just a gateway to death, if you think about it. So,
Meteors, not even once.
right, and meteors themselves might not be that interesting, but our first little bit of Hoth trivia, Hoth off the press, which is a podcast you should check out. Good peoples.
Absolutely, you should.
Um, the special effects team used anything they could find to get the shot when it came to Lucasfilm films. What was used to fill in the asteroid field when the Falcon makes its escape? I did not think about all of those S's from Hoth. You get the gist. A. Meatballs. B. Potatoes. Or C. Wads of lint from Lucas's flannel pockets.
You know what?
I,
I feel like C is plausible, even if that is a joke
I
answer.
want to know how much flannel lint from Lucas is in Star Wars.
I feel like most of it, honestly, like there's little bits of lint on the camera that just get their own backstory.
Right. It was Lucas's flannel all along.
You know what? I'm gonna say potatoes.
Yes, B, potatoes.
Yay.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things where when things are moving fast and not everything's in focus, you can kind of sneak in a little bit of anything you want in there. It's like the Kit Bash style of a lot of things. There's Easter eggs on the ship Nostromo in Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
There's Easter eggs in the Borg cube. They're like all kinds of stuff where things get in there. And
Yeah.
so I just love that it was the plant of my people, the potato, the mighty
Yes.
potato.
You are a potato, so
So
you made a cameo.
right. Yeah, we start off a little bit, it's the things you don't expect that really get you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no second chances when you die, unfortunately. I know Easter's coming, but that only came for one man, not all
Yeah,
of us.
that was a one-time deal,
That was a
guys.
one-time deal for
Well,
one guy.
a two-time deal because Lazarus.
Well, yeah. Well, but that was
That was
all right.
foreshadowing.
Thanks for poking a hole in my analogy.
You're welcome.
Moving on, much like your humor,
Buy my
number
Sunday
9
school.
is the cold. I'm just kidding. No, I'm the cold one in this relationship, obviously.
Oh, honey.
Obviously, the cold is dangerous, but a depressing real fact is that about 1,500 people a year in the U.S. die from hypothermia. A lot of those are homeless, and that's a sad fact.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where sometimes real life pokes in, and if you can do anything to help folks, whether it's donating goods, donating heaters, all kinds of things,
Mm-hmm.
literally part of my job description is helping get those things to people that need it. So
Yep.
do that because that is a horrible statistic. Anyway, but Hoth is another level of cold and danger.
Ah, yes, butt Hoth.
Yeah, butt Hoth. At night, it can get apparently as low as negative 60 degrees Celsius, which, because we don't understand what that means, is negative 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you just have to figure, it's essentially the entire opposite of what most people are experiencing in their weather right now. Most places are about 70-ish right now, so imagine
Hmm.
the opposite.
Yeah, like for context, we're from Georgia.
Oh yeah,
We're
I
we
forget
don't
not
reach these
everyone is
temperatures.
yeah.
We got some Midwesterner listeners, and they're just like, "Oh, that's not too cold."
Right. I could go out in shorts with that one. So, but it's bad though when even tauntauns die from the cold.
Yeah, that
So,
that'll do it.
uh, now that is extreme, but how cold is Hoth really, in a real sense? Well, I have an answer for you because that's our next bit
Yes.
of trivia. Okay, so to
Okay.
figure that out, we have to figure out where the filming location was.
I'm gonna have to do math,
It's
won't I?
interesting. No, just geography. So, we'd have to check the weather of the filming location, which was A, Vancouver, Canada, B, Finse, Norway, or C, Junia, Alaska.
Wow.
Doom, 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 doom.
Golly.
All cold places, by
Very
the way.
cold. You know what? B's treated me very well so far. Let's go with B.
Hey, B. Yes, B, Norway. Finse, I hope I'm saying that right, Norway. Fun fact, Vancouver, Canada is a popular spot, but I picked it specifically because it was the filming location of The Grey.
The
Um,
Gray, and also Supernatural,
lots of places.
and also Psych, one of
It,
our favorite
oh
television
yeah.
shows. Like,
It has a great many things, both cold and wildernessy, but also a lovely little city. And I picked C because it was the filming location of John Carpenter's The Thing.
yes, it was.
I love cold locale places.
Great
It's interesting how
movies.
many there are out there. So, knowing now that it is a location in Norway, which, despite the little bit that we see of it in the film, is not a barren wasteland. It is a full legitimate city. Actually, they were not too far from the major train station of that city when filming this. So it's really interesting how much you can. I don't know. I guess I just assumed that it all looked like that because of one location they shot in. And also, fun fact, turns out that when they were building the maps for Battlefront 2, where you obviously see a lot more of Hoth than you do in the films,
Hmm.
they actually traveled back to Norway to get shots of the location. So,
Fancy. Do you
good
think they
due
rode the train?
diligence. Hmm?
Do you think they rode the train?
I hope so.
Do you think they rode the Fjorgenborgen?
I don't know what that is, but I'm going to ask you to stop with the bad language. So, the lowest temp recorded in the last 18 months in Finse, Norway was actually negative 31 degrees Celsius or negative 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Not as cold as Hoth, but still enough to be deadly. Did you know, fun fact, this one's free, that hypothermia technically sets in at when you drop below 95 degrees internally?
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And you only have to have an internal temperature of about 68, yeah, 68 degrees Fahrenheit to technically be on your way to death.
Dang, son.
Like we think of that as such a like that's essentially what our house sits at normal. Um, that's death for humans. Like if you ever got as cold as your house, that's death. That's crazy to think about.
So the next time you see that kid outside the middle school with his baseball cap backwards and his freaking camo shorts and t-shirt in like 60-degree weather, say, "Hey, you're in death's door, Buckaroo."
Right. Shout out to Rebecca and Nicholas for that idea. Rebecca is from SoCal, so of course
Yes.
it can drop below 60 and she's freezing. Her words, not mine. Well, not
Okay.
the 60 degrees, but I imagine that's generally where people get most cold. I love around 60.
Hmm.
I think 60 to 65 is
Perfect.
beautiful. But anyway,
Yeah, we are hoodie people.
so sticking with what we would now know to be deadly things of Hoth, we've got the cold. Now, number 8, we have Wampas.
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 Yes.
Everybody saw this coming except Luke. Dun-dun.
I
No,
think I just
Wampers.
peeked my mic.
I've done it several times. That's what you get with this quality content. It can't be
Oh
contained.
yeah.
So Wampas are big, mean, and ugly, and would make an easy meal of most creatures and people. In fact, they are the only other known. I have to quantify that.
Known.
Known predators on Hoth. So everything else is not really a predator. I mean, they might eat like little small things, but not nearly like apex like the wampa. Like the wampa eats everything, and so I
Good
thought
for
that was
them.
interesting. And also, fun fact, this has no relation to this, but apparently the population of Hoth is less than 10. Obviously, not counting animals and fauna and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, less than 10. That's interesting.
That's very interesting. It's like that. Do you remember the movie Snow Dogs?
Hmm.
It's like that.
Like, yeah, but a
Yeah.
whole planet.
Toketna.
um,
That's the city.
did you know we never really saw the terrifying Wampa on screen until 1997? 20 years later,
Really?
until the special editions. Some production notes exist of the original, and some photos of it, but just imagine the Bumble from the reindeer movies, and that's why it was cut.
I do love the Bumble.
Yeah, it just didn't look as good, so they kept it very tight. They had more shots of the hand. It was just not like the shot that so many people associate, and the reason we have the Wampa at
Mm-hmm.
all, really, is thanks to the '90s special editions. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
There's a good addition. I know those get
Yeah.
pooped on a lot, but they actually did some nice things.
Yeah, and it's also just really expensive to have the tiny, minor ginger man to follow him around and
Right.
singing about silver and gold.
Yeah. He was most of the budget.
Yeah.
All of his beer and silver and gold.
Well, he licked everyone's pickaxes and was just like, "There's gold in them there hills."
Right. So yeah, they just had to cut that. It was all garbage. Number 7.
Mm-hmm.
We're chugging right along here.
Chugging
Um,
this tea.
maybe not one expected, but you do kind of see what would lead to it, and that would be cave-ins.
Oh no, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, it's speaking like of fears that I know are kind of impossible because I
Mm.
don't go into caves.
Okay, in that sense, yes.
But like cave-ins, watching the movie The Descent ruined me for life,
Hmm.
and also grain silos.
Hmm. Yeah, very, very big cause of death in America, actually.
Yes, don't go into grain
Well,
silos.
not everybody intends to end up there, but sometimes it just
Just
happens.
don't.
If you can help it, don't go into silos and don't go to Hoth.
People drain and they they freaking drown in grain silos.
Right?
That's nuts.
It's crazy.
Who does that?
Asphyxiation. So believe it or not, Hoth wasn't always a rebel base. It was hastily built, and it took a long
Yes.
time to find a base suitable to hide from the Empire and to meet Mon
Mhm.
Mothma's strict decor requirements.
Of course.
But in the early days of Hoth life for rebels, Poe Dameron's family actually got trapped. His mom and dad got trapped due to a cave-in. They didn't die, thankfully, because they had to make a baby, but
Yes.
they
In fact,
almost did.
that's where they made the baby.
No, not quite. But yeah, the cave-in itself didn't kill them, but it separated them and closed them off from everyone else. So they almost died of hypothermia and starvation.
Hmm.
So either the cave-in will get you, or you'll get cut off from the rest of them, and there'll be no hope for you. Either way, death is close.
But what a romantic situation.
Right, I'm sure they would turn it into it.
Of course.
Um, and when you add in stomping walkers and large explosions, much of Echo Base was actually destroyed from its own cave-ins. You see a little bit of that in the action and fray
Hmm.
as things are just breaking and falling apart. So to get stuck in any of that would be certain doom.
Ooh.
So another trivia.
Oh.
The Echo Base was hastily built, yes, but how hastily was it destroyed? How long after they built and finished it, well, I should say, how long after they arrived was it destroyed? So, A, 1 year later, B, 6 months later, C, 1 month later, and we have a D this time. Never, because Empire Strikes Back isn't canon.
Wow. I don't like that one. Uh,
So, 1 year, 6 months, or 1 month?
I'm gonna go with 1 month
Yes,
because I'm
one
feeling
month.
frisky.
It's
Ooh.
kind of sad, how much work they. I mean,
Yeah.
technically they weren't done, and you can kind of see that there, but like,
Yeah.
geez.
They had to dig through the Lego bin for the little satellite parts.
Think how many
Really
people
sad.
like died taming. Like that was originally a Wampa cave. Come to find out, they also had to train the Tauntauns because lo and behold, they weren't used to being ridden. Um,
Hmm.
like all the work that went in, and I mean, it was never intended to be a permanent thing, but a month, man, that's a lot for a little.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
Is what it is.
it's sad. It makes you think when you're watching the film to keep in mind that they've been working so hard to get to this point. The desperation they have when the Empire shows up. It's a big deal. And speaking of the Empire showing up, now we're to that point.
Of
So
course.
number 6, we're almost halfway there.
Well, oh.
Any guesses of this one yet? What do we got?
No.
No?
No. My
Okay.
mind is empty like a flower pot.
Good. We will fill it with death. Number 6,
Please clip that.
Imperial Walkers.
Yes.
Imperial
Okay.
Walkers.
Good.
The most iconic part of Hoth, arguably, and usually the first thing people think of when discussing Empire Strikes Back, maybe not everyone, but definitely me, the most epic battle between Imperial walkers and Rebel snowspeeders. Not surprisingly, these looking walkers can kill you in many cool ways.
They can stomp on you.
Yeah, so either frying you with their laser cannons or stepping on you, the often underused technique of killing rebels and everything. So, but speaking of cool walkers, cool AT-ATs need a cool team name. And so, what is the name of the walker team that attacked Echo Base?
Christopher.
Christopher.
Christopher Walkers.
um, that's a good one. I should have used it,
Thank
but
you.
no. A, Blizzard Force. B, Force for. I can't even read my own notes. Goodness gracious. Frost Fighters. C, Snow Legion.
They're all dumb. Like this is
But one of them is true.
this is a Firebird kind of situation. Give me A again.
Blizzard Force,
Yes.
Frost Fighters, or Snow Legion.
Blizzard Force strikes me as something that an Imperial officer would be like, that sounds cool. So we're gonna go with Blizzard Force.
Excellent. Good job. Did you peek at these notes
I did not.
beforehand? You're good.
But here's the thing. I know your brain.
Well, that's true.
I
Okay.
have lived with you for many years.
Yeah, so I was trying to work in a Silence in the Snow reference there, but it just was not happening for me.
I
So,
got
but
it.
no, yeah, you're so far, you're killing it with these trivia questions. I'm gonna see if I can stump you. We got a couple more for there, but yeah, Blizzard Force. I believe there's 4 stated ones, at least, or at least we know of at least 4. There's different shots I think that look different and could be maybe a little different. But one thing I found interesting, and we have obviously I used several books and I used Wikipedia and everything
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of get to this point with the trivia and everything. In one that's about the filmmaking of the Star Wars films as a whole. It's all of the films. It mentioned that there were varying heights of AT-ATs built, which, yeah, you would think, right? But I didn't realize, though, that that meant that there were legs as tall as men built. That was for the stomping scene. There were obvious what? What's so funny about
As
that?
soon as you said legs as tall as men, I just thought of Lady Dimitrescu.
Oh my gosh, you need to get off the internet.
Listen, man,
You need to take a break from
I
Twitter.
watched the trailer and it was really good. Big lady, that's it.
And then the more commonly seen, I think, in behind the scenes things are obviously the armatured ones that are used for the stop motion and everything.
Yes.
Those are about the size of a tall cat. But then there are handheld ones
Oh,
for little like wide sweeping shots where they had like the full like valley of ice and everything. You could see the base and the cannons. It was the wide shot, so they were using little baby ones. It was so cute. So
dang. I love miniatures in film.
I do. There's something great about having some. If there's many a thing I love, and if I love it enough, I get it in every possible size.
I know.
So I want the smallest to the biggest legally purchasable AT-AT in my collection for
And
sure.
to show that, just today you bought a tiny, tiny little Optimus Prime.
Yeah, the world's smallest. Well, maybe not the world's smallest overall, but the world's smallest purchasable Optimus
Yeah.
Prime
They were
for my shrine,
they were
for
sold
my
out of
Optimus
Skeletor.
shrine.
Yeah.
It
From
didn't sound as much like Prime as I thought it would. Dang it.
Shrime.
Optimus Shrine.
Optimus Prime, my
This
favorite
is my
Transformer.
cousin, Optimus Shrine. We don't let him out much.
Bumblebee's cousin, Wasp. That
No,
guy
no, they are
sucks.
not related.
Oh, that's an actual Transformer?
Well, in one iteration, there's Wasp who turns into Waspinator. But yeah, don't ask me. We'll
I
talk about
just took a
Transformers
sip,
one day.
man.
We'll talk about Transformers one day. I love it so
Waspinator.
much. They were the same class. They were both scouts, so Depends on if you want to associate them. Sorry you're dealing with this ramble, but it's not going to be a long episode, so just deal with it.
Listen, man, I'm enjoying this.
Right.
I'm
At
having a
least four
great
people
time.
pay for this, so there you go.
Yeah.
Um, all right, number 5. We're halfway there.
Uno. Or no.
Oh no.
That's not, that
Did you just jump into a spiritual game of Uno there for a second?
Yes. I I couldn't remember and still can't
I love
remember.
games where you have to yell the name of the game. You know,
Trouble.
life. Number 5.
Yes.
Emergency landings.
That'll do it.
Yeah, the rebels are no strangers to scrappy warfare, but Hoth and its cold temperatures made for an interesting challenge. Most of their ships couldn't handle the cold, and most couldn't be modified to combat the cold without making them inoperable out of atmosphere. So there's your in-universe explanation of
There you
why
go.
didn't they just use the X-Wings. Enter the often overlooked hero of the rebellion, the Snowspeeder.
Ah, yes.
I've done my Optimus voice now, so I keep just like slipping into it. Or actually, it's commonly referred to as the Snowspeeder because of production notes, but it is the T-47 Airspeeder. We'll talk about that more later. But if the cold didn't kill your speeder, then a well-placed cannon fire or a heroic final act would.
That'll do it.
Yeah, just ask Luke, who barely survived a crash during the Battle of Hoth, or ask General Maximilian Veers. Except you can't, because he's dead. And as well as Hobby Kilvin, who flew his ship into the lead AT-AT of Blizzard Force, killing them both.
Yeah.
That's actually a deleted scene made canon recently in Star Wars literature, so that's why you should read, children, because it makes not canon things canon.
Reading
really awesome.
is not only fundamental, it's necessary.
Right. I had a principal that had that poster. I was in his office so much that I just I hated that poster. I hated that phrase, like put the fun in fundamental. That was what it was, and oh my god, I see it vividly, and I just want to just do horrible child things.
And return to the principal's office.
Right, in return for it. Not fun fact, or kind of fun, I guess. I don't know. Everyone mentions that the Wampa attack scene was used to justify Mark Hamill's real facial scars in the film, thanks to an accident he had not long before.
Mm-hmm.
But few, including me until preparing for this episode, knew he also injured his thumb when diving away from the speeder in the foot crushing scene. He did something where he injured his thumb and he could not hold a lightsaber and threw off the entire production of lightsaber duels for the rest of the film.
Oh, dang.
So like the next thing they were supposed to do was fly back and do all of the duel stuff for some reason. And yeah, they could not do that. So it threw everything off. So
Fancy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Mark Hamill just needs to stop. Stop. He's dangerous.
Mark Hamill.
Right. Oh my gosh. So I thought that was so funny.
It is funny.
That he just had a bad time during that period.
Similar fun fact. While filming Lost Boys, Kiefer Sutherland broke his wrist on one of the motorcycle stunts. And that's why he wore gloves throughout the entire movie, to hide his cast.
Interesting. And don't get up in my comments and mention the freaking Lord of the Rings guy that broke his foot.
Did you know
Everyone knows that.
Did you know that he kicked the helmet and he broke his toe?
Yes. Another interesting fact, though, about Hoth, or at least the difficulties filming there, other than your lead actor's broken thumb, maybe not broken, but definitely hurt, they actually were plagued by some of the worst weather they'd had there in a long time while trying to film this. So much like in The Phantom Menace, when they had the desert storms that just blew away half the set during the Tatooine filming scenes. Man, they were just killing it. Like, I mean, there was one guy who even said, like, yeah, we didn't have heat for a while.
Dang.
It was horrible. So the things people do, like, that's why you should be nice to actors, be nice to stage people, be nice to crew members, be nice to everyone, period. But, like, goodness gracious, these people do a lot to make these stupid movies that we love stupidly.
Yes.
And I say that loving these a lot, but gosh, every time I hear stories like that, I'm just like, you didn't have to do that. Like, goodness gracious. We could have done it with styrofoam, people. Come on. Anyway, number 4. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. I got off on a tangent. Number 4, tow cables.
Tow cables.
Tow cables. Not cables for your toes, but yeah. If you're wondering why, and this is the part I mentioned we'd come back to with the airspeeders. If you're wondering why a ship in space would need a harpoon and tow cable, it's because they are actually civilian commercial class vehicles that were modified for these conditions. They're most often used in shipyards for towing. So there's a reason they're there. Obviously, the main reason was because they needed the cool shot, but you know,
Yes.
they explained it later, so it matters.
One of the best takedowns of a giant beast
Oh
in
yeah,
film.
awesome. So the cannons and anti-cold measures were added later, of course. But yeah, and it's a good thing for the rebels, but not for the Empire. At
Yes.
least one. It's kind of sad they only got one down with it, but they got one AT-AT with the dizzy efforts of Wedge Antilles, the best of Rogue Squadron, and of course his targeter, Wes Jansen. I won a trivia contest with that little bit of trivia,
Yes, you
so
did, and I got second place.
there's a reason. There's a reason. There's not a reason. I don't know why my brain does this. Like certain things, if I say it the way I remember it, I can
Hmm.
remember it. But if you asked me in general, like what was Wedge's pilot? I'm like, oh, I don't know. But if I go through the dialogue and it's like, good shot, Jensen, like it's there. It's just like I don't know why, but like I have to lead in
Hmm.
there a little bit. So, but yeah,
It's
that's
like,
literally what I had to do at the contest.
yeah, it's like when I could not recite a single Weird Al Yankovic song from memory, but
Right.
when it's playing,
Oh yeah.
I will
Well,
sing
yeah.
along.
Most people with prompt, yeah, it's a thing. So I mean, that's why testing is kind of, eh,
Yeah,
it's not a great measuring tool.
other than White and Nerdy.
Oh yeah,
I
that
know
one.
that song by
Well, that
heart.
one in Amish Paradise on a fly.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
we'll make it happen at Celebration one time. So,
Oh yes, we will.
so yes. Now since an AT-AT can carry 40 troops and it has a crew of 5, that's a lot of murder by our rebel friends with a
Yes.
tow cable. What looks like a cool scene of taking down just a giant mechanical elephant. There's people in that elephant. People with families.
That elephant has a family.
But you know what? Little Timmy doesn't have a dad anymore. Thanks, Wedge.
To be fair, Wedge doesn't have a family anymore either.
Oh, darn you, J.J. Abrams.
That's what you get.
I almost think that's one of the few complaints I had of the
Was
Rise of
that Wedge
Skywalker.
wasn't there?
Oh no, that he was no, that like there's nothing like first of all that Snap Wexley died, but
Yes.
then his stepdad shows up in the last minute, and I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to be happy. How? How? I ask you.
How, JJ?
How?
How?
Oh my
Send me a
gosh.
lens flare to tell me how.
So no, I love the movie. I don't want people to listen out of context, but
No.
oh yeah, because I love Snap and I love Wedge and I love what Rise of Resistance did
Yeah.
for their story. Yeah, that sucked. So anyway, it's not quite what he intended, but shout out to patron Doug for this idea of tow cable mishaps. Although I guess technically that didn't miss or hap, but it did happen.
It happened.
Murder did happen. Number 3. Goodness, we're down to the big 3.
Ooh, dang.
So number 3.
Androids, aliens, or wizards?
Grenades. Always an acceptable answer. Grenades. Not that you'd expect grenades to be very common in an icy tundra, but
Nobody expects
when
grenades.
humans invade, they most often bring their weapons. So, and old Graham Baru always told Luke Skywalker, "Never leave home without your grenades, Sonny."
Never leave home without
Um,
your bomb
yeah, don't go to
avocados.
Tassie Station without your grenades, little grunt.
You little pomp
Yeah,
rat.
you look too much like your father. Anyway, what's happening?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
It's the tea.
Either way, he was able to take down the third AT-AT casualty of the battle, which again means 45 dead guys. And on Hoth, it happened, so it still counts. So there you go. By the way, 3.5 Luke should have died. The fall. Good lord.
Actually, yeah.
AT-ATs are
It should have.
73 feet tall, and he at best was 60 foot.
And in those weather conditions, that
No
snow would have
snow.
been
No snow would
packed
have done that. Oh
hard.
yeah, well because if the AT-ATs are walking on it, obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's not that padded.
Have you
So
never been in a snowball
he
fight?
definitely
Like,
would have died. So that's a bonus one for you people.
mm,
So
you people.
number 2. So yeah, that was a little one, but yeah, I mean, just think what it had to be like. Robot Chicken did this, but just think what it had to be like. Just there, and then all of a sudden, just flash of light, and whoop, there's a grenade, and it's just
Whoopsie.
you know, I mean, it's like in Battlefront when I like worked so hard to get all those kills so I can buy the vehicle, so I can stomp some people. The biggest I can get is like an ATST or whatever. But like, just imagine all that work, you get that, and then you get taken down by a measly little grenade. That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks. I have the big guns. I'm the big gun boy. I'm the one who wins. Anyway, Drowning. I know I didn't really say the number first, but number 2 is drowning.
Number 2 is in fact drowning, isn't it?
Yeah. Now you might wonder if it's so cold, where's the water? But lo and behold, actually, fun fact about Hoth, it's actually 33% water somehow. So I don't know if it's in a pocket somewhere where there's still water.
It must be like those hot springs that the monkeys hang out in.
That very well could be. Other fun facts that I did not mention earlier is that Hoth is one of 6 planets in its system, although for some reason it's named Hoth. It's the 4th planet in the system. It's not even first. That's like naming this the Earth system. I mean, that how pretentious can you get?
I mean, I get it because we are the most important planet. I mean,
So they tell us.
so they tell us.
So they tell us.
We're terraforming Mars.
There's also only 6 known forms of fauna on the planet. So there you go. Wampas being one, and Wampas being the biggest predator of them all. So there you
Indeed.
go.
Another being small, tiny, mop-headed boys.
Well, I mean, one obviously is tauntauns, and then there's like a fork-toothed snail or something like that. It appeared recently in a comic, but it wasn't technically there. It was like an egg of one because apparently they haven't been around in a long time, so it was kind of expensive. That's why Afro was selling it. Like, we
Okay.
really only see the wampa and the tauntaun, but apparently there's like ice rats, and there's a snake, and there's a slug too, for some reason. I
Why
would
is
think
there
slugs.
snake?
I think slugs would just like freeze as a whole because they're so viscosity.
Well, if there can be snow slugs in Mario, then there can be snow slugs on Hoth.
Just come up with better names for your things. That's really all you have to do. Anyway, so evacuating crumbling rebel base is hard enough in general, but even harder when you're stuck in a tank of Bacta.
Ooh
Um,
boy.
and so, have you ever seen the mobility skills of medical droids? They are no good in those situations. I mean, you have an emergency. I don't know why they put the slowest droids in response to the biggest emergencies. Like, if you're bleeding out and the droid is on the other side of the room, you might as well just say your prayers,
It's
make
just
your
like,
peace.
Cheerios. I'll
Like,
come
it's
over with
just
the tourniquet.
done. It is done. So, yeah, if you're in one of those Bacta tanks and, things go down,
Dude,
you're kind of just stuck there.
thinking about this.
And I just wondered if
Terrifying.
you like it's a healing bacteria,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like if you just stayed in there, if you were trapped in there, would
You
you
would be
die?
so healthy. My God.
Like yeah, would you die? Because I mean, I think you would have to lose your air supply because they provide that obviously, but like I don't know. That's an interesting one.
If you had a chance
I feel
to
like
be in a Bacta tank, would you?
I mean, they can do a lot of good. I feel like eventually you would die,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously why it's ended up here. But it's a horrible situation to get stuck in.
It's terrifying. Like this and grain silos.
Right.
Just
Well,
don't
it's
put
right
me
up
in
there.
either.
It's pretty much that. It's essentially the space equivalent.
It's a wet grain silo.
Yeah. So shout out to our patron Jim for that
Yeah.
disturbing one.
Thank you for the
That
nightmares,
was a
buddy.
unique one. That was a very unique one. So I felt like I had to include because I feel like it had to have happened. I mean, it's had to have happened in times of emergency. People got stuck there, and it's just
Mm-mm.
it's a very depressing way to die. But anyway, fun fact in Legends, I told you we'd mention a little bit of it, but in
Like,
Legend there was actually a war over Bacta. Apparently, the primary providing planet that harvests the bacteria and all of that stuff was overtaken by the Empire,
of course.
and it was liberated by our good old boy Wedge and Rogue Squadron and all of that stuff. But
Good
yeah,
boy.
you can read the Bacta War. It's a Legends novel, and it must be good because it's Rogue Squadron esque, and apparently they can do no wrong. So there you
Of
go.
course not.
I love a good many of those books, but there's other ones where I'm just like, oh, you were just
You
writing
just
to
wanted to
fill.
write a book.
Yeah, you were filling space. It's okay.
Which we don't know any authors that do that.
So now
Mhm.
we're to the final, if you can
Yes,
believe
we
it.
are.
So you've made it, and we have no more trivia actually. So that means you cleaned it.
This is the final one.
This is the final one. But there's I don't have any more trivia for you. So that means you win.
I win. What do I
You win a
win?
trip to Hoth.
I'm ready to die.
Ironic, isn't it? So there you go.
Put me in a Bacta tank, baby.
Yeah, there you go. So, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention the greatest and biggest threat to Hoth and on Hoth. It's just a threat in general. It's our tradition at the 10 Ways Travel Company
Mhm.
to always give you the biggest and baddest warning last, the numero uno, causer of deathero.
As we are filling out the the
The
paperwork to get
yeah,
you ready.
just making sure you really want to deal with this.
Oh, by the way, this thing.
Yeah, Skywalkers.
Of course. Which, now that I think of it, that should be the number one on every single one of these
I think it
episodes.
has been so far.
I think
If it's
so.
not been, it's been our bonus or it's been on the list. But we have mentioned it every time because the number one cause of death in a galaxy far, far away is a
It's a
Skywalker. So
miracle that these people keep getting married
right.
and just
I mean,
reproducing.
if you're traveling somewhere and you look beside you and there's a Skywalker,
Get off
just
the plane.
yeah, just leave,
Just
just
leave.
back away slowly. It's horrible. So on Hoth alone, the death toll for Luke Skywalker is not as big as we're used to with him. They're certainly not as big as death
Hmm.
toll. It's kind of hard to top an entire space station, but nonetheless, I mean, is not somewhere you want to take your children. I think you accept that generally you're going to be everywhere that's not safe.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, you're gonna go to Detroit one day. It's gonna happen. But like, you know,
Everyone eventually comes to
everyone
Detroit.
eventually travels. Takes the spirit journey to Detroit. But like,
You just drop some ayahuasca and you just run to
Peter
Detroit.
Weller's just at the city limits, just waiting to greet you. So, but yeah, like you accept there's generally death around you, like the potential of it all the time. But at the end of the day, how much is too much? Well, I think it's Luke Skywalker levels of death. So we have Luke's Tauntaun,
Uh-huh.
we have possibly a Wampa because how is a one-armed Wampa going to be taken seriously on Hoth? You know he didn't get dinner anymore.
Oh.
We have Han's Tauntaun died because Han had to go rescue Luke's butt. We have an Imperial probe droid because
Mm,
droids are people too, and he found the planet.
agreed.
And then because Luke went and had to investigate, they knew there was a probe droid, and Han shot it. And then we have Dak, his co-pilot,
Dag.
dead. And then the 45 Imperial troops of the AT-AT he took down, and that's just what we saw. There's no telling what else we did. This little blue-eyed sucker, he sees the cameras on him, and he still commits these atrocities.
This man has a higher death count than John Wayne Gacy.
Right, like just goodness gracious, it's a lot of death. Too much for little Timmy's eyes. I highly advise against visiting Hoth on your next vacation planning trip.
Well,
Um,
it might be a little safer now because there's only one Skywalker about.
well, I don't trust any of them. You know,
You tell me.
adopted or bloodborn, I don't trust any of them.
You tell me that you wouldn't step into an elevator with Rey Skywalker.
She participated in Starkiller Base. She is not innocent. Speaking of icy worlds of death, she contributed there. So, no, but yeah, Skywalkers are always on the list because my goodness, these boys like to kill.
Boy, howdy, do
Boy,
they.
howdy, do they have a kill count? So, um, that's our list. That's what I could come up with. 10 things to die. I'm sure there's actually more, but all you need is 10 to get disqualified. So, Nerd Herder Travel Plans highly don't recommend uh, that Hoth be on your next vacation planning.
Mhm.
You can do better.
Yep.
And, we'll give you the opportunity to choose where you take your vacation. But
Yes.
look out because in the future we might be spoiling your next one.
Yes,
You never
and
know.
payment in advance.
Right.
We have to keep saying
Yeah.
that because,
You did pay for that. We expect our payments in the mail.
Yeah.
It's about $9.99 a minute, so we're
Mhm,
sitting at about
mhm, mhm.
45. So just do the math and pay us, or
Yeah.
else, or else. Thank you to our patrons we obviously mentioned, but Jim, Doug, Rebecca, and Nick, you guys are amazing. Thank you for supporting this madness, and you can check it out. We have links in the description for how you can support the show, and obviously we've mentioned it goes for input and all kinds of other things.
Yes.
And if we get enough money from Patreon, we've already said we will release the Nerd Herder cut of our 4 hour episode on Justice League. So
Yes, of course.
but we need a lot more money. Henry Cavill has to be there.
Yeah.
There was this whole thing. He showed up. We didn't wanted to, but we had security escorting him out. We don't deal with that kind of company
He
and
kept
everything.
taking off his shirt. It's
It was
just
just weird. So, but all of that can be returned to you and your eyes and ears.
for
Uh,
$1,000 a month.
oh gosh. Thank you to our friends over at Red5Network for supporting us and for their globs and globs of great content. You can check them out
Yes.
and support them as well. Thank you to our friend Jesse over at Game Infinite. There's lots of gaming stuff happening, even Star Wars related. Republic Commandos coming to PS4, Switch, and now PC, I think. So
Dang.
If you need to keep up with that news, if you didn't know about that, that's because you're not following Game Infinite. You need to do that. So,
Yeah, we are mentally and physically preparing ourselves for Mortal Kombat.
yeah.
That is going to be coming out later this month.
Yep, that's going to be on Nerdiverse. We mentioned on Twitter we've watched Godzilla vs. Kong. That's going to be on
So
Nerdiverse. We've
good.
got good stuff happening, good stuff coming, and be subscribed for that. Just make sure you tell us and others you like it by liking and rating and
Yeah.
all of that wonderful obligatory podcast stuff.
Validate me, Father.
Yeah, validate me, please. Um, Other than that, we'll be back to spoil your travel plans and all kinds of other Star Warsy things and not Star Warsy things and chatty things in the future.
And hats.
Yeah, but until then, stay cold, stay frosty, and have a good time. Except on Hoth. Don't do it.
Don't die.
Don't die. Don't end
Yet.
up on our list.